Welcome back to The Truth with Trinity, and I am your host, Trinity. And if this is your first time tuning into the podcast, I'd like to send you a warm welcome. Here, I talk about issues that happen within the Black community, hopefully for some resolution or at least some food for thought to go about your daily way. So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce this episode's topic, which is: are grown black men that live at home with their mother too long ruining good relationships? Before I get started, I want to send a special thank you and tell all my subscribers that I appreciate them for tuning in. And if you're not subscribed yet and you would like to hear more content when it becomes available, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. And also, after the episode, if you felt that it resonated with you, don't forget to hit the like button and also share it with others. So before I get started, I'd like to make a small disclaimer. This does not apply to all black men. There are some successful and black men that are independent. And this also doesn't just apply to black men. This can apply to all, races of men and even women who can be irresponsible at times. So now that I've made that small disclaimer, I'd like to get started. So children who are fortunate enough to grow up in a household where at least one parent provides the necessities, such as food, clothing, and shelter in a loving environment, they later usually grow up to think and become self sufficient to be able to support themselves. Basically, skills that both female and males need to survive. Okay, so if you're a grown up, period, male or female, you need to be able to take care of yourself after a certain age. Okay, but why are so many black men comfortable with staying at home living with their mother past the age that is healthy? So this is past the age of 18. This is past the age of 18 and perhaps going to college, in state in your city, and, just using your mother's house to, have a less expensive place to stay while you're in school. This is staying at your mother's house past about the age of 21 years old. You're still just at home and you don't have any like handicaps or anything like that. Okay, so I would like to talk about reason number one why a lot of our black men are staying at home, where it's comfortable at. So reason number one: the father in many cases have never been in the home to teach the male manhood training, less alone the basic drive to take care of himself, to relieve their mothers of the obligation and burden. Okay, so a lot of times, when there's two parents in the house, a mother and a father, the male child grows up, and they may be comfortable there, but they have their father, to teach them skills that will enable them to be able to take care of themselves. And they have a father that reminds them, like, hey son, you can't stay here forever. Me and your mom need our privacy. You're grown. It's time for you to get out the home. Okay, so there's that balance, of a man there. And it also, like I said, relieves the mother of the obligation and burden. Okay, because, after 18, it's time to take some of that slack off of mom. Okay, so reason number two: many black mothers throughout the years of child rearing have created a trauma bond with their sons. And although many black females leave the home due to single motherhood or pursuing education or just the desire to have their own space and place, many black mothers continue that it's just me and my baby against the world mentality with their sons that ends up in many cases mentally impairing many men from engaging, interacting, and sustaining long-lasting or healthy relationships with women. Okay, so it's one thing, as a single mom, your babies are young, and you're like, it's me and my babies against the world. You're clutching your baby for dear life, and you're going through life. But it has to be a time, where the mom lets their child go to be able to sustain healthy relationships with other people. So, so you might ask, or one may ask, how is this ruining healthy relationships with women, right? Let's look at a few reasons as to why. So number one: many grown men who live at home often state that they pay bills while living at home with mom. I don't know if you've been a female, you've talked to guys, or if you're a guy yourself and have talked to other guys and you're saying, hey man, it's different when you pay bills at your own place versus paying bills at someone else's place, and you hear a guy say, hey, I pay bills. I pay my cell phone bill. I help my mom pay her electric bill. So you may hear that. But they fail to understand that paying bills at another person's house is oftentimes optional and legally falls on the person whose name is on the lease or mortgage. Many black men get upset and frustrated when you point this out to them. Like, hey, this is, your mom's place. And a lot of times in their head, they're like, this is our place. This is me and my mom's place. I've been living here all my life. And it's like, no, man, her name is on the bills. She's obligated to pay the bills while it's optional for you to pay the bills. So if you don't come up with the money, it's optional. But if your mother, whose name is on the bill, or whoever's name is on the bill, doesn't come up with the money, then the lights get cut off. So there's a difference, okay? Number 2, many black men often break psychologically under pressure when the daily and monthly demands start coming in, such as real life scenarios and bill collectors. Because although they may have paid a bill or two, they have never dealt with mortgage lenders and landlords directly. And when the bliss of midnight intimacy is over with, many black women have found themselves confused and frustrated at this particular brother's lack of understanding and drive to be just as eager to maintain or help maintain the home front as he was in the bedroom. Okay, so a lot of women have found themselves in relationships, with these type of guys. And, he was great in the bedroom. He was very masculine in the bedroom. He was very dominant in the bedroom, but past that, he's not as eager to help out, with the things and things around the house and the bills as he was in the bedroom. So he's real eager there, but he's really submissive and timid when it comes to, the things that need to be done around the house. So I want to stop right here and discuss how it was psychologically engineered and designed for black women to be independent and strong, and for the black man to be dependent on women. Okay, basically the opposite of every attribute black women are taught to be, and furthermore, every characteristic most men typically have. Okay, so basically the roles have been reversed. This is part of Willie Lynch ideology as well, making breeding the black woman to be strong, to be able to handle anything, which is basically typically a man's disposition, and having the black man behind the black woman. He's in a female dependent state, afraid to get out there and make those critical decision making moves within the house that really constitute a man being a man, versus only in the bedroom. And it leaves black women out in the forefront, and this characteristic and personality that a lot of men find unattractive, in the black woman. But like I said, a lot of times, for so many years, she's been forced to do so with the man on the back burner, in that comfortable spot that traditionally women have been in. Okay, so let me continue. Has the black man's basic instinct to hunt and provide been taken away by being provided for by a female past his years of childhood? Okay, so has this broken the black man's basic instinct to be a hunter, to take care of the home front, by being taken care of a female past his years of being a child? Okay, so let's continue. Let's continue with reason number 3. Many black brothers grow up with the mindset that as long as they made mom happy around the house, for example, the chores around the house being done by the time mom is home from work, or as long as he had a warm, welcoming smile and was obedient as a child, that this pleased his mother. Okay? But from a psychological standpoint, as the male child grows up into a man and continues to reside at home, he fails to transition into a mentally independent state. Furthermore, carrying the same motto or mindset that if I please mom by doing a few chores around the house, she will be proud of me mentality. into their adult relationships with women. Okay, so that worked when he was a teenager. You know, he was a 10-year-old, he was a 14-year-old, he was a 15-year-old around the house, you know, 16-year-old around the house. Hey, by the time mom gets home, the chores are done, the house is clean, you know, everything's good. When mom comes home, she's going to be proud of me. And I think when a man stays at home past the ages of childhood, they carry that same mentality. So they're at home still, you know, at 25 and 30 years old, you know, as long as the house is clean, you know, mom's going to come home and cook a good meal, and that's just going to be great, okay? For example, so I want to go into an example. This particular guy may tell a woman that he can run her bath water, give her massages, and cook meals from when she comes home from work, okay? This sounds wonderful and considerate, but a lot of these brothers feel as if all they have to do is chores around the house, which causes further frustration to the female he is involved with, which causes a lack of respect towards the male in the home, okay? Because a lot of times, you know, these guys, you know, that they do this, they may not want to work. You know, this is caring and loving for you to do this for your woman or your wife. You know, she's coming home from work, but if this is like part of your homemaking skills, as if this is your full resume as what makes you attractive as a woman, that's what causes, I think, the role play rift and shift in the relationship between black men and women. You know, because that's not going to be pleasing to a woman long term. I want to talk about reason number 4. When many males are challenged as to why he lacks the drive to help provide, he makes excuses such as he doesn't want to work for lower wages. You know, and a lot of times we complain that Hispanic men and other, you know, immigrants are coming over to this country and they're taking jobs. But in actuality, you know, a lot of times those guys are willing to work whatever job they have to work, okay, to be able to provide a living for their children and wives, okay? And that's just the reality of it. And if you don't start off at a young age, building yourself up to be able to have higher skills, to be able to get better jobs, if you start at 30 years old at the bottom, that's where you're going to have to start at, and you're going to have to build from ground zero. That's why it's best, you know, as a male or a female, to start younger, especially if your parents aren't wealthy. You have to start from the bottom and then, you know, gather skills so you can get higher pay, okay? But that's not an excuse not to have any job, though, just because you don't have the desired job that you want, especially when you have a family, you have children, et cetera, and you're grown, period. They want to keep the black man down. So you hear this a lot as an excuse from some brothers that, you know, when you confront them like, hey, why aren't you helping out in the house? You know, why don't you have the drive to get a job? They may say the white man's keeping me down or whatever. You know, this is a fraction of the truth. But, you know, a lot of times, you know, as black people, we can keep ourselves down. And this also applies to the black men as well. You know, it's time for us to apply ourselves. Also, he may try to accuse his female, okay, so he might try to accuse his girlfriend or wife or partner of being stuck up or irrational for asking for basic necessities. And, you know, I hear this a lot across the internet, and even with, you know, the average everyday black man, you know, they a lot of times accusing the black woman of wanting too much, okay, of, you know, being unrealistic, but it's being misconstrued with the reality that a lot of black men are not offering the baseline necessities toward black women in relationships, and they're saying that it's just black women wanting a Maserati and a mansion when that's not what the black woman, the everyday average black woman, is asking for. They're asking for their fair share and a black man to carry his own weight, and furthermore to be able to help around the house, and that's being misconstrued as black women just wanting everything in the world, and that's just not fair to black women. Reason number 5, because of perhaps being constantly reminded of the bills or food, not to mention if they have children together, because having children has broken the mentally toughest of the toughest people. So, you know, having children, no matter if you always paid your bills, no matter if you've always had a job, it can break the most strongest of people. It's very challenging, okay? He may choose to escape by leaving to go back where it is comfortable and carefree. And where is it comfortable and carefree at? His mother's home. And with some mothers who enable their sons to escape reality, and because in many instances the father isn't around to reinforce their grown son's manhood by saying, no, son, you have your own family now. You can't stay here, okay? So there's no father at the mother's home to say, hey, you can't stay here, son. You got to go back and be a man, okay? They have mothers that are eager to let them retreat inside their adolescent built havens that was once designed to nurture their son while once a child, which now serves as a suffocating chamber that stifles his manhood, cripples his ability to stand on his own 2 feet, and places disappointment and frustrations in families he leaves behind. Okay, so this is the families he's creating with other women he leaves behind. He's creating anger and frustration because he gets to run back home with mom when things get too hot. And it causes the woman to have to deal with the brunt of the burden, okay? Because he's saying, hey, those are your bills. This is your apartment. This is your house. I can go back home when things get too tough, when the baby cries too much for milk. I can go back home with mom, And a lot of, men complain and saying, hey, I'm not living, in a house with a woman. And I'm like, that's correct. You shouldn't. You should have your own house. And a woman should have her own house or apartment. And then you guys should come together. If you're going to get married, come together. Or, she can move in with you. But it really shouldn't be a man living in with a woman because, it is correct. That places the power with a woman on a man's level. When the bills are all in her name. And she's the one paying all the bills. I mean, it does cause an imbalance in who's who in the relationship. At least if it's not going to be 50-50. Let me continue. So instead of being rational and finding merit to his woman's needs, so when she's saying, hey, I need you to pick up slack around the house. Hey, I need you to get a job. Hey, you doing chores around the house and giving me midnight massages, that's not enough for me. I need you to be a man in other areas. He dismisses them and her because he knows mom has a hot plate and his favorite blanket that awaits him. He has never had concrete responsibility. So when the extra burden and pressure increases with the daily demands of fatherhood, he has no coping mechanisms in place whatsoever. Men with this type of mindset have a superficial idea that the woman they left was unrealistic, and they seek new opportunities with other women, starting the psychological trauma that includes damaging other women and future children all over again. Okay, so a lot of times, a lot of guys have convinced themselves, hey, that woman was unrealistic. She was a nagger for no reason. I can find me a better woman. I can find me a different woman that's going to accept me for who I am, okay? Because these women want a rich guy, and it's not that the women want a rich guy. They're just asking for a guy to be accountable and responsible. So a lot of these guys convince themselves, oh, she was stuck up, I can find someone else, and they start the cycle all over again. They move from their mom's house, they get in with another female, and that same female, once the sexual escapade dwindles down and the daily life demands start really kicking in, then this cycle continues because he's like, oh, she's tripping. She's nagging me and I'm going back home, and then more kids most likely are a result. And so he's moving back in with his mother, finds another female, and the cycle just continues all over and over again, okay? Let me continue. So I encourage all mothers out there, so all black mothers, if you're listening, if there's any black mothers that have grown male children or male children that are still children, that if your children aren't in danger or in a direct threat of being homeless, let your grown children take care of themselves. This goes for males and females, okay? Let them take care of themselves. If they're not, in direct, immediate danger, don't be so quick to go out there, because I know it can be hard. If you spend 18 to 20 years, of your life, being that caretaker, it's hard to turn that off. And I wouldn't say completely turn it off, but turn it off to the point to where it doesn't cripple your grown children from being able to fly out of that bird's nest on their own. And lastly, black men, even though it is in your mother's nature to want to nurture you, do not abuse, misuse, or overstay past your childhood years. It not only puts extra strain on your mother, but it hurts you the most in the long run. Look, it's been a pleasure talking with you all. This concludes this episode. If you'd like to get in contact with me, or if you have any questions or suggestions, you can reach me at thetruthwithtrinity.com. You can also listen to my podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and Anchor. And always, if you can't tell the truth with anyone else, you can with Trinity. Till next time, take care.